G'day everyone, artist Wayne Dowson here, and although it's been decades since the Patterson-Gimlin film turned a Northwest legend, Bigfoot, into a household name, the footage and stories behind it still remain fascinating 50 years later. Bigfoot is seen on the film for less than 1 minute, but what might be most surprising, after half a century of advancement in film and costume technology, is that this footage has yet to be officially debunked. But if this is not a real Sasquatch, then it's a man in a suit. So let's take a look and see if two cowboys who barely had a buck to their name could have made a better costume than anything that Hollywood had to offer. And using something that's very rare in these times, common sense, let's see if we can't put our heads together and crack this conundrum once and for all. And yes, I will certainly be talking about Philip Morris and Bob Hieronymus. Hollywood is yet to duplicate the so-called obvious man in a fur suit. Such a feat in costume fabrication would require overcoming several major obstacles: the hair, limb proportions and torso width. So let's take a look at how the best efforts of the industry measure up by comparison to the Patterson-Gimlin film subject, which incidentally was filmed in 1967 in Northern California. Now, when it comes to Bigfoot, we all know they are hairy. In fact, thick tufts of hair are Hollywood's favourite for a host of monsters, being the first line of defence against telltale seams and zippers on any part of a costume. One of the ways for giving a hairless man his own fur coat is a pre-produced fursuit that acts like a set of zippered pyjamas. And this is exactly what was made for the $6 Million Man TV series in the late 1970s, which featured 7-foot-tall wrestling legend Andre the Giant in the role of the Ape Man and wearing a set of furry PJs. But as with a hairy jumpsuit of this design, you'll always have visible bunching and wrinkling in the most inconvenient places. Enter John Chambers, the costume man of the 1960s, who won an Oscar for Planet of the Apes. And because he was the best, it was assumed, yet unconfirmed, that the PG film was his handiwork. However, years later this was denied by the man himself. Now, what about his ape costumes? Sure, the actors look passably like simians. Of course, Chambers saved himself untold work by putting clothes on his apes. The heads, which looked chimp, gorilla or orangutan, had the proper jaw extension, the protruding brow line and head crest. But the illusion has to end with the neck, and it ended in a sheet of beards on the males and females that jumped 3 to 4 inches in length to hide the collars and necks of our simian actors. Every ape in the film, even the largest species, looked exactly like a human with a gorilla head on top. In the Patterson-Gimlin film, moving muscles can easily be seen. This would require a form-fitting suit, one that wraps around the arms and legs individually with no connection to each other. And this was the very method used by George Lucas for his famous Chewbacca creation in the Star Wars movies. With a suit like this, where no pieces are connected to each other, energy cannot be transferred, which is why Chewbacca never suffers from an attack of the jiggles or wrinkles of any kind. However, while this solution solves one problem, it unfortunately creates another one: seams, which is the reason why Chewbacca has such long hair. If Chewbacca's hair was shorter like the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot, the seams would be easily identifiable. Another costume which deserves serious attention was Star Trek's man-eating white ape. For this costume was made in the late 1960s, barely a year after the PG film, and it featured an 800-pound ape, which was basically a visual disaster. The wrinkles were gone, the seams were not. After applying 2 inches of foam on the shoulders and arms in order to let the actor keep his range of motion for the very athletic jumping and fighting the script called for, the foam could not have any connections with other body parts. One can easily see a thick arm attached to a thick body with no continuity in the skin at all, and the seams, well, they stood out like dog's balls. Fast forward to 1987 and we have Harry and the Hendersons, and Hollywood is still using the same old tricks to hide the seams and joints in their Bigfoot costumes. With ape suit technology, Hollywood has put on a very poor performance indeed, especially when you compare it to the PG film. Don't forget, Hollywood has millions of dollars at their command. Now look at the PG Bigfoot, the fur being equal in length, colour and thickness across the entire body area. Either the suit was made with everything pre-attached, a hard thing to get into, or hair was actually glued directly to the body itself. That kind of application time would take 10 to 12 hours. Longer if it was attempted on location at Bluff Creek. By comparison, the 2000 movie X-Men featured a supervillainess dressed from head to toe in blue body paint and over 200 prosthetic attachments. It took about 12 hours a day to complete, and that was with modern technology in the ideal conditions of a movie studio. However, the Patterson-Gimlin film is not without its detractors. Over the decades, intriguing theories regarding parties behind the hirsute hominid on camera have percolated. This theory was first uncovered by writer Greg Long, who interviewed a rodeo rider acquaintance of Patterson and Gimlin named Bob Hieronymus in 2001. Hieronymus told Long Gimlin said that Robert was going to make a film and they needed someone large to wear a suit. Bob was 6 foot tall and 190 pounds. Hieronymus described the suit as being made from horsehide and consisting of 3 parts: legs, a midsection and a head. He agreed to wear it for $1,000 and it was sealed with a handshake. That $1,000 he never saw. The question is, why did he wait decades to come forward? Now enter Philip Morris, who backs up Bob's man in the suit theory. In fact, Philip Morris claims he made the suit. Hang on a sec, I thought Bob said it was made of horsehide. Morris claimed Patterson paid for the suit with a postal money order, but Morris did not have a receipt to document the transaction. Morris also stated that Patterson quizzed him on how to make the suit's arms longer and how to hide the human eyes behind the gorilla mask. Morris would also claim his costume was a one-piece outfit with a zipper up the back, and that it was made from artificial fur. This also contradicts Hieronymus's recollection of the Sasquatch costume he supposedly wore. Morris would also claim that the face of the Patterson-Gimlin Sasquatch was not one of the masks from his gorilla costumes, nor did his costume come with the floppy breasts that was seen on the creature in the footage. That's also one of the biggest questions one must ask. Why on earth would you put breasts on a Bigfoot suit? Morris and Hieronymus appeared together in a 2005 National Geographic television special where Hieronymus attempted to recreate the Bigfoot walk while wearing an ape-like costume. Most people agree that it was a failure. Well, at the end of the day, when we compare Hollywood's best to the Patterson-Gimlin film, it falls very short indeed. With millions of dollars at their command, Hollywood is still bested, and Genuine still remains in a forested creek bed hundreds of miles away from movie magic. I'm artist Wayne Dowsand, and thanks for watching everyone.